There are rumblings in the deep that Marcelo Flores will be filing a one-time switch from Mexico to join the Canadian national team. ESPN are reporting this. Apparently, the Canadian FA has had extensive communication with Marcelo recently, and there is a high likelihood that this actually happens. In this video, I'm going to briefly explain how this is even possible, and then I'm going to break it down from the different perspectives of the Canadian national team, the Mexican national team, Marcelo himself, and then I'll give you guys my final opinion. Before I do, though, if you guys want to see more videos about CONCACAF, and no, I'm not just talking about Mexico, though I drop a ton of Mexican national team content in English, I'm also talking about Canada. And Canadians, you and I, we have a very love-hate relationship, but I feel like there's a mutual respect there. I try to give you guys as much flowers as I possibly can here on the channel. I feel like I do so fairly. I think you would be interested in my content covering your national team, including previews of both Mexico and Canada's November friendly window dropping soon on the channel. Smash the like button. Now let's get into this. Marcelo Flores was born in Canada. His mother is an English Canadian and his father is Mexican, which means he was eligible for all three national teams. Now, most of his footballing education happened in Canada and England, where he was part of the Arsenal Academy. Any Mexican national team fans will probably either cringe or laugh at hearing that, because that is the main reason why Marcelo Flores was such a hyped prospect for Mexico at the time, because everybody saw the Arsenal crest and thought that he was going to be the next coming of Jesus Christ. As his professional career was getting started, there was a clear conflict in his head of which national team he was going to choose, England, Canada, or Mexico, and he ultimately decided to go with Mexico, getting called up by Tata Martino in a friendly in 2021. He was then officially cap-tied to Mexico when he made a competitive debut against Suriname in 2022 in the Nations League. However, he has not featured for Mexico since then, meaning he is eligible for a one-time switch according to FIFA regulations because he made less than 3 caps under the age of, I believe, 21 or 23. This is like an out that FIFA will give young players in case they make the wrong mistake, which... don't even get me started on that right now. The point is, he meets the requirements, and he clearly had ties to all three nations growing up. Now, I'm going to approach this first from the Canadian perspective, and I have to ask Canadians, Mexicans, Americans, hate watchers, let me know down below in the comments, how do you feel about Marcelo Flores becoming a Canadian national team player? First and foremost, does Canada need Marcelo Flores? The answer is absolutely not. Does it hurt to have him in the team? Of course not, but this is kind of like a milquetoast statement you could apply to every single player. And this pisses me off whenever I see people online talking about like, well, it wouldn't hurt to have him, wouldn't hurt to have him. Yeah, we could take him. Yeah, why not have him? Well, let's take a brief moment to look at the Canadian depth chart at the left wing position, shall we? Assuming that Marcelo would play as a left wing for Canada, he would be behind Ali Ahmed, Jacob Schaffelberg. Let's call Jaden Nelson a draw. I'm not even factoring in Alphonso Davies because according to the current national team manager, Jesse Marsh, Alphonso Davies is a fullback. But were Davies to return to the left wing position, we're talking about Marcelo Flores at best being the fourth option. And you know what? There's probably another 17 or 18-year-old Canadian stud on the come up at Southampton's academy right now that I just don't know about. But let's be more than fair and say he is third in the depth chart. I would not classify that as a meaningless one-time switch or a meaningless acquisition for the Canadian national team, but this is not a game changer. And so as long as we all have tempered expectations about that, I think we can get along. I do want to ask Canadians, though, if you guys feel some type of way about Marcelo Flores not choosing you guys when he had the chance. Maybe I'm just being a dick, but it's hard for me to believe that he's choosing Canada out of love. Not that he doesn't love Canada, I'm sure he does, and I don't want to downplay how difficult it is for dual nats to make these decisions. From the Mexican perspective now, how does this affect the national team? Well, it doesn't really, because Marcelo Flores is an irrelevant figure. The reality is, he's not a very good player. He's not terrible, he's not bad. I mean, he's a professional athlete, for God's sake, so this isn't a scrub that you're going to find at Central Park, but he's not a difference maker like what I said earlier. And I will say that I personally have not seen any clamor from anyone for Marcelo to return to the national team. If I'm understanding the situation correctly at Tigres, he's even lost his starting spot at the club level. There is a reason this man hasn't been back in the team in 3 years. And there's a reason very few people are mad about it. There are way more people who want Oziel Herrera back in the team than Marcelo Flores. The left-wing depth chart for Mexico probably looks something like Alexis Vega 1, Julian Quiñones 2. After that, you could say it's Chucky Lozano, you could say it's Chino Huerta. I know those guys play on both sides of the field, but I think both of them are better than Marcelo Flores, which means, again, at best, he is 5th in the depth chart. This is not a huge loss for Mexico. I feel like I'm being an asshole when I say that, but it's just the objective truth. It's not. And I'm going to call on my Mexicans now. You guys let me know how you feel about this. Does it bother you that Marcelo is switching from Mexico to Canada? I will represent Mexico wholeheartedly for the rest of my professional life. Well, I guess that was a lie. Now, for Marcelo himself, does this make sense? I guess it does make more sense because I guess you're slightly higher up on the Canadian depth chart than the Mexican one. Maybe it does help his career. Maybe this somehow spurns a move to a Canadian-based MLS team. I don't know. That's probably not an impossibility. But truthfully, guys, like the best thing for Marcelo Flores for more opportunity is to be better for Tigres at the club level. That's why he's not being called up by Mexico. It's not because Javier Aguirre thinks he's a turncoat. It's because he hasn't been very good for several years now. He is suffering from his own output, his own performances. There's no conspiracy against him here. But in summary, I do acknowledge that there is slightly more upward mobility with Canada than there is with Mexico right now. And lastly, how do I feel about this? A bit conflicted. It does upset me a little bit that he is switching to a CONCACAF rival, and I know Canada's not United States level rival, but they are a top 3 team in the region. Before everybody comes for my head in the comments, I do feel bad for him that Mexico hasn't worked out as planned. I really do. And I fully acknowledge that there was definitely pressure from his father to choose Mexico when he was deciding between the 3. And while I am sympathetic to that, again, a little bit of personal accountability at the same time. You weren't 13 years old when you made this decision. Lord knows I've made decisions in contrast to my father's wishes. He wanted me to go to graduate school, and instead I'm sitting here talking to a camera. So I guess the jury's still out on which one of us is correct. Please hit subscribe. It's just hard to not see this as Marcelo getting a little salty that he's not good enough for Mexico and that his club situation is bad and now he wants to get out. At worst, that is partially the reason why this is happening, if not the entire reason. Now, I don't know Marcelo Flores. I don't have his number. We don't follow each other on Instagram. I don't know all the reasons. I do not doubt, once again, that he loves Canada and that he would be proud to represent Canada. Of course he would be. He was born there. This is just kind of a weird, sad saga to me. I'm a little bit annoyed, but more than that, I feel bad for him because he had insane expectations from a young age. Expectations that, for the record, for what it's worth, I never bought into. You can check the tape. And this is why I do not engage in the CONCACAF Wonder Kid talk. Y'all talking about Gilberto Mora. Y'all talking about Kevin Sullivan. To me, is largely cringe. Like, these are children. Leave them alone. Their careers are just getting started. Stop making their lives harder. I'm just not going to participate in that. I wanted Marcelo Flores to succeed, and should he go to Canada, I still do. I have nothing personal against him. But let this be yet another warning of the ramifications of choosing a national team. This is a decision you are only supposed to make once. It looks like Marcelo gets to make it a second time. It is his life. He gets to do what he wants, but he also has to live with the consequences of his decisions, especially at this stage when you are officially a grown man. That's the video, guys. You let me know how you feel about the situation in the comments. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. If you want to see more CONCACAF content, hit subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.